How much time do we have?
4.5 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, so I can't get a hold of him. I'm gonna check your Facebook to make sure that's going well, and then I'll keep
Okay.
trying him. And yeah, I'll just let you know.
Okay. And if we get him late, we just can't go. Okay.
Okay.
Just get.
At what point, like, at what time do you think we should just move on to Dr. Knighton?
Let me come out of the headlines.
Okay. If I don't get him by then we'll just
Yeah.
continue.
I will. Just try and get Dr. Knighton up.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. 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 How's everybody? I'm on the road. Therefore, spent some time. I'm gonna have Dr. Deborah Holden on in the next few days. She's got to leave the country. Maybe it'll be after a week or so. But she's not just the dean of the she's the dean of the School of Global Public Health, which means she is in charge of 16 campuses on 6 continents. 16 campuses on 6 continents. And so I've tried to give her space. She said, I'll come back anytime and what I don't want to do is I wanted her to get adjusted to her new position. You know what I mean? I really wanted her to do that. And so that is what I have been trying to do for and with her. Okay. So that's that. That is that. So we'll get right to it. We're going to be talking with Dr. Julianne Malvo about this 32-hour work week that union workers that's part of the negotiation. We're also going to be talking with David Hochberg about credit repair. Credit repair. A lot of people, when you miss a paycheck, you might have had a bankruptcy. I mean, all kinds of things happen to people in the course of a lifetime. I know things have happened to me, maybe not those things, but things happen. And so people need to get their credit repaired, right? And he has said, do not use that debit card because that does not help you to build your credit. So we're going to be talking about how he has a credit card that will help you to do that.
Hi, Miss Jackson.
Yes. Do we have him
We
yet?
got 60 seconds. We do not.
Okay. All right. Then you just bring on Dr. Knighton and we'll just keep it moving.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of campuses. She has a tremendous responsibilities. Could you hear, do me a favor really quickly, say something, Henry.
Hello, hello.
Can you all hear Henry?
Hello, hello, hello.
Can
What
you?
is up, everyone?
Oh, well, Henry, there you go. Can you all hear Henry? Let me know, because that is how you'll be able to hear the guest. Ashley, someone let me know. Robert, let me know if you can hear him. Okay, very good.
Hi,
That's how we're
Robert.
going to do it today. Okay.
All right, we're about to come on.
Okay, fantastic. Just let me know when we have her.
Will do.
Boy, what a.
Change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can change the world, we can change the world, change the world. This is the Santita Jackson Show. War and hate, war hates the world, the constantly. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's Thursday, September 21st. The Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. I'm still in New York. I'm on my way to the Congressional Black Caucus weekend. I've got to perform some duties down there. I'm really glad to be going. Hadn't planned to, but I am now. And so you'll be getting the show this way. But tomorrow, everybody, spread the word. I'm going to have Dr. Cornell West on. I'm so excited. And he'll be on early at 6:30 Central Standard Time. 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And he'll be able to stay with us for a little while and talk to us about his candidacy. I'm so excited about that. And I thank Dwight McKee for helping me to kind of chase him down. Although, to be fair, I've known Dr. West for decades now. And when I lived in New York, I would go visit him when he was a professor at Princeton. So, I'm just really, really glad. And in fact, he introduced me to Toni Morrison when I would visit there, because the bison that she is, was a professor at Princeton at the time, and she was down the hall. So we're going to be talking with him. But today we'll talk with Dr. Julian Malveaux, in addition to talking with David Hochberg about credit repair. Credit repair. Many of you might need that if you've lost a job, if you're missing a paycheck, if you come up short. Your credit can be impacted by any little thing. We're going to talk to David Hochberg about how to work on getting good credit, repairing your credit, establishing credit. And he has a credit card that can help you to repair your credit. How about that? Or even establish it. And then, of course, Dr. Max Wolf will be talking to us about this global economy that is slowing down. What does that mean? And introducing robots into the economy. How is that going to impact the workforce? We got a lot to talk about today. So I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show. Everybody, please like and share. Dave Dowling, Mark Hay, Jewel, Ashley down there in Memphis, Tennessee. Andre, please like and share. Robert, like and share. Samantha, like and share, like and share, like and share, like and share. And like and share, please, right now, right now, right now. But we're going to get some of these headlines out of the way, because that's what we need to do on the Santita Jackson Show. So let's get right to it. President Zelensky accused the United Nations of inaction on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At the UN Security Council session yesterday, the Ukrainian president sharply criticized the UN for their ability to defend the sovereignty of nations. For the Security Council to remove, he wants them to remove Russia's veto power. And today in Washington, which is where he's going, President Zelensky will push for more financial support to repel the invasion, as American support for that is waning, which was the argument that the President of the United States, President Biden, was making yesterday, because it's people, people. You tell me what you think about Ukraine. Are you willing to pay for it? It's cost Americans alone more than $100 billion, as we need money so desperately at home. You tell me what you think, everybody. You tell me what you think. The Biden administration will extend legal status to 470,000 Venezuelans. The administration said yesterday will offer temporary protected status to Venezuelan migrants who entered the U.S. by July 31st, shielding them from deportation. Why now? According to this Washington Post report, the largest Venezuelan migration wave to the U.S. has strained shelter capacity. The move will expedite their ability to get work permits and support themselves. The Senate confirmed the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, despite a blockade, everybody. Air Force General Charles Brown Jr., President Biden's nominee, was confirmed to the Pentagon's most prestigious post yesterday, despite a political standoff. Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, a Republican, has blocked military promotions for months over a Defense Department abortion policy. About 300 senior officers have yet to be promoted. The federal government will again provide free coronavirus tests. Thank goodness for that. The Biden administration announced yesterday it would revive its program to mail free rapid tests to Americans amid a recent uptick in infections, everybody. Now, how do you get them? Beginning Monday, you can request 4 tests per household through covidtests.gov. covidtests.gov. The test can detect the latest variants and can be used through the end of the year. covidtests.gov. covidtest.gov. And did you see the hearings yesterday with Merrick Garland? We're going to be talking about that in the coming days. Boy, it was a whole lot, and it is beginning to get quite interesting and hot. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And guess what? The Game of Thrones creator, Jodi Picoult and Jonathan Franzen and others are suing OpenAI over its use of their work to train its language models. This is part of what the strike is about, everybody, how AI is going to be used to use other people's work without paying them, right? The lawsuit filed this week comes amid a growing movement of artists and writers suing tech companies for training artificial intelligence tools on their work without credit or payment. And boy, I have some things to talk to you about that, but let me let them kind of roll out first. You remember Bob Ross, the TV painting guru? Of course, he would teach us how to paint on PBS. It was always such a quiet, beautiful show. His first TV painting is on sale for, guess what? $9.8 million. You remember the white guy with the afro? I thought he was wonderful. It was a wonderful, wonderful show. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 72 degrees today, 72 degrees and showers. And in Minneapolis, St. Paul, 84 degrees, mostly sunny. In Major League Baseball, the Twins 5, Cincinnati 3, the Nationals 13, the White Sox 3, and the Pirates 13. I guess that was a number yesterday. The Cubs 7. Ooh, wee. In the NFL, the Giants will be playing the 49ers tonight, and the Lynx fell to the Sun yesterday, 90-75. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Let us pivot to Dr. Shanina Knighton. But let me give you this quick bit of good news. Whatever you do in life, keep on going, keep on growing. I was with a friend of mine yesterday, one of my dearest friends in the world, and he came to me some years ago and with a terminal illness. And when he told me that he had this terminal illness, I just poo-pooed it away. I said, oh, we're not going to worry about that. I said, now what you need to do is go see this doctor who I know. She is nutty as a fruitcake, but I think that she has some alternative remedies that some of my friends have used that I think could be very, very, very helpful to you. And he just looked at me because I said, I had made dinner for him. I said, we're just going to keep on eating this dinner and we're just going to have a good time and it's going to be all right. And guess what? That was 27 years ago. Yeah. You got to keep holding on no matter what. And whatever you do, never, ever, ever give up. He says to me all the time, he says, you saved my life. I said, I don't think I did that. I said, I was the right person at the right time for you. But you know what I gave him? That we can all give each other. I gave him hope. So whatever you do, don't give up. And let us give each other encouragement. Let us give each other love. That's the commandment, everybody. And that is the good news for me today. Dr. Shanina Knighton, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
How are you? Now, you sound real excited today. What do you think about, before we get into what you want to discuss today, what do you think about these? They're now, the Biden administration, thankfully, this is a great thing that they're doing. They're going to, if you go to covidtests.gov, you'll be able to get the free COVID test again. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh. Because when I would come to New York, which I do frequently, you got off, you walk to the lot where you get your Uber or you get picked up, and there would be these trucks where you just go and you get your test. And before you even got into the city, you'd have the results, right? And you wouldn't pay for it. Well, Americans are paying for it, but you wouldn't have to come out of pocket, not immediately, right? And now they're going to provide them again because of this uptick in COVID infections. You think that's a good idea? Do you think we should just have that as a policy going forward?
Well, the problem is it's telling people information, but then what? So it's almost like knowing that you have, like, let's say, a comorbid condition. It's like finding out that you have something, but then it's like, okay, so what? Like, what are long-term consequences, right? Meaning, and we've talked about this before, the fact that somebody can know that they have COVID, but if they don't have any paid time off or any sick leave, that's not going to stop them from going to work.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there's some sort of policy that's in place. It doesn't mean that there's some sort of, tracing measures. Remember how when you would find out you had a positive test, you had somebody that was calling you, making sure that you were staying at home, making sure that you didn't need anything, and make sure that your symptoms wasn't getting worse. So now there's an administration of testing kits, but then those testing kits essentially aren't going to do they aren't telling us anything that's getting ready, meaning like there's no incentive that's coming along with that. Oh, you take the testing kit, you find out that you're positive, the government's going to make sure that we send you a supplement check because we know that you can't afford to be off work. Or there's no support there in terms of healthcare services. So somebody finds out they have COVID, but I don't have insurance.
What does that mean?
I'm getting ready to go in. And think about treatment.
And now the medicine, for example, ivermectin, that was shunned. And people used to really say awful things about you if you tried to get it, and then pharmacies, if it was prescribed, wouldn't give it to you. Now we find out that it actually works. It's been working all over the world. So maybe we just need to take a step back and not just our personal health practices, but we need to have a look at a healthcare system. Oh, do we want to live or do we not want to live? Is it going to be a culture of life or not? Well, thank you for that because, yes.
Yeah, that's the problem though, to your point. And then the question is where we are right now with COVID, does ivermectin work as effectively on these current strains as what it did on the past strains, right?
Yeah.
There's been other, treatments that have been put out there as well, from other physicians that they said that may work. So there's a lot of going on right now, just in general, that's still floating around COVID. Long COVID is a real thing. So I know I just talked about, like, okay, not having a test and what difference is it going to make, but the flip side of that is long COVID. So maybe me understanding that I have COVID may mean that I'm more conscious about looking out for long COVID symptoms. So if my ears are ringing, if I got a chronic cough, or I have something that's lingering beyond the time frame that I'm no longer testing positive, at least I'll understand potentially where the extra thing from long COVID, where it came from, opposed to just speculating, like, why is this happening to me? So there are going to be some advantages of, let's say, being tested, but my overall concern is it just going to tell us that people are having more and there's nothing that's going to be done, or is there going to be some sort of policy or support implications that are going to come behind it? And my concern is that there isn't going to be. I mentioned this yesterday, that out at stores, the fact that you can't find hand sanitizer when you're walking in the stores, or wipes to wipe down your car, as if that is just an ethical thing to provide, given the hundreds and thousands of patrons that shop at stores on a regular basis. No one's wiping down the screens anymore. No one's wiping down the counters that people are going to talk over. So it's really, how do you become vigilant about your own items now? Early on, I was reminding people just about even simple things when it comes to fast food, and just being aware that the person that's making a drink is also handling a card. And the fact that literally their hands touching all of these cards are also going to press down the lid on your drink. And that's the cup that you're drinking from, you know? Package. I talk about the condiments being placed right directly on your food. So there are just general infection prevention and control practices. And this is crazy. And I'm not telling anybody anything new. Just like hand hygiene is nothing new. It's just unfortunate that you have to do a redundant sharing of information in order for people to realize how important it is and why it is that they should absolutely adopt these practices into their everyday lives. And I know I'm mentioning just like, let's say, fast food, but even when we talk about grocery stores, are you the person that's walking around and touching absolutely every single thing in the store? Or you're actually literally not washing your produce off after people are touching produce, not recognizing that it's wet and people sneeze and they cough.
Oh my gosh.
But it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's also social events. Social events are going to be going on during the fall. So when you're out at the game and there's buffet style in terms of food, one of the things that used to aggravate me is I would literally watch people cough in their hands and then touch the service phone. By that time, I don't want it anymore. But it's a thing.
You're right. But you know, it's these little things,
But
you know.
it's a thing.
But you know, a friend of mine said, "Common sense ain't common," and it's just a lot of little things that even that our grandmothers and great grandmothers used to tell us to do. I mean, you couldn't sit down. I remember when I would get home, if my grandmothers were visiting, or if I was visiting them, you had to, before you could sit down at the table, you had to take a bath. He said, you know, you have to wash off the dirt of the day. You can't bring that to the table. It's little things like that. And these were not rich people. My folks were. They went from poverty to being working poor people to being working people to getting comfort when their children were comfortable. But it's just basic values, and I think it's something that we've got to. We're just going to have to push it ourselves. We can't wait for this to come from the White House or the State House. It has to come from our house, and we have to go ear to ear, mouth to mouth, talk to one another, and just say, "Hey, these are the things that we need to be doing." And we're gonna have to put these things into practice. I've got a couple minutes left. What do you want to leave us with today?
Honestly, Santita, it's us continuing the conversation around these many touch points that can cause people to be sick, and to help them to understand that yes, tests are available so you can be aware, but then the question comes is, what are you going to do about it? Because to know and not to do is not to know. So if you know that you're sick, but you do nothing about being sick, then you might as well not know that you're sick. If you know that you're sick and you're not protecting others, and you don't do anything, then you might as well not know that you're sick. So it's really understanding, education-wise, if I am sick, what can I do to protect others from getting sick? And the other thing is if I'm taking the test just to make sure that I'm not sick, am I just taking the test to make sure that I'm not sick, or am I actually incorporating practices that are going to keep me safe? I know that it is rarely discussed. We talked about air a lot. People talk about, let's say, masking. I'm going to continue to remind people, if you are out and about and you are coming in contact with environmental services, that is going to be one of your biggest risk factors. If you are going through airports, and let's say that you are handing the person your ID, and they touch thousands of IDs, and 9 times out of 10 they're using those gloves, all of the germs from every ID that they touch before yours is on your card. Make sure you have an individualized packing wipe to wipe down your card. It's going to be very environmental. So making sure that you are cleaning your hands and cleaning your belongings that may come in contact with other items is going to be one of the most important things that you can do as we start to continue to see these uptick in numbers.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina, that is her handle on social media, HEYDRNINA. Coming up, credit repair. Do you have good credit? You don't have to tell me. You know, the story gets told. Are you using your debit card because you don't have a credit card? Are you using your debit card just because you don't think there's a difference between your debit and credit cards? We're going to be talking about that with David Hochberg in just a few minutes. Dr. Knighton?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I am.
Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. See how ComEd is preparing our public schools for a clean energy future at ComEd.com/public schools. WCPT report. I am pleased to welcome back Tracy Bain. You know that name from the Windy City Times.
I need you to turn that down.
There was a very nationally prominent gay rights activist who did an interview a few months ago and said, you know,
Henry, I need you to turn that down.
So fast that I was really worried that there would be a backlash.
Henry, can you turn this down?
Living under now. Do you agree with that? We are absolutely living under a backlash.
Henry.
This is not an organic.
Henry, turn the radio down, honey. It's too loud. Okay, perfect. We couldn't speak with each other. It was too loud. Okay.
Oh, so sorry about that.
No worries. You just needed a reminder. That's all.
Appreciate it. I also have David Hochberg here.
Okay, great. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing fine, just on the road this morning. And so I am doing a lot of little things right now, but it's good. Good that you're with us. Okay, I'm going to do the original read, but when you can, I need you to get me that copy for your credit card.
I was started writing it. It didn't finish. I'll get it out to them. I'm heading downtown.
Yeah,
So I'm doing all my commercials and my stuff today.
Okay, don't make it complicated. Just keep it real simple. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Dr. Knighton, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. This is David Hochberg. You might have heard him before. He handles housing issues. He's a lender. And so let me introduce you to, this is Dr. Shanina Knighton. She's one of the world's foremost health experts, and her area of expertise is infection prevention.
2 minutes.
So she is absolutely
That's
brilliant.
very timely. I talked.
Oh yeah, it really is. She's been with us. What has it been, like 3 years?
Yeah, we're going on. We've been together for a while. Look, at least 2 for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, she was brought to me by.
Oh, it is going on 30 years.
Yeah.
You're right. It's going on 30.
Absolutely. The Dean of Global Public Health at NYU now brought her to us, but she was the Associate Dean at, now we're so proud of her, but we're so proud of Dr. Knighton because she's one of the few infection preventionists. There are not that many in the world, and she's one of them, and she is absolutely brilliant. And we were talking about you the night before last, Dr. Knighton. Everyone is so proud of you.
That's all nice.
And Dwight swears that you are an absolute genius. I said, that is true. So there we go. So it was
It's so interesting because just in awe as they are of me, I feel the same exact thing about them. And that is just honest. You know, it's amazing and refreshing.
Well, we all feel that way.
Hear everything.
We all feel that way about you because we know what we're hearing.
30 seconds. Thank you. And most humble manner, I say thank you. That means a lot.
Oh, look, you're the best. Well, stay right there. So I'm going to pivot into this read, okay? David Hochberg?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then I'm going to come to you.
So this is our finance guy with housing, right?
Yep, that's
Real
right.
estate.
Yes.
That's right.
Thank you, David.
If you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to. We're coming up. Stand by, everybody.
Okay.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Spread the word, everybody. Tomorrow, we will have Dr. Cornell West. He will be on at this time tomorrow talking about his presidential campaign. It's going to be very, very exciting to hear from him. Just love him, love him, love him. And I am just looking forward to having as many candidates on as I can. Yes, I am going to get Robert Kennedy on in the coming weeks as well. Have Marianne Williamson come back by. And I'm going to reach out to President Biden. I want him to come too. I want everyone to hear from everybody. So we are talking about credit repair. But why do you need good credit? Because there's really precious little in this world that you can do without it. Certainly in the United States, we live on credit. And that is your housing too. Many of us get turned down. Many Americans are turning away from home ownership because we cannot pull together enough money for a down payment. And if we have that, we don't have credit that's good enough to get us lowered mortgage rates. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are seeing the declining home ownership amongst Americans. And they're very, very concerned because that's the cornerstone of our wealth. You get loans. There's so much that you're able to get when you are a home owner. So if you have not owned a home in the past 3 years, you might have owned one 4 years ago, even 5. But if you've not owned one in the past 3 years, the past 3 years have been very difficult. Guess what? You might have an opportunity to own a home, but you've got to call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID to find out if you're eligible. Or go to 56david.com so that you can find out if you're eligible. I would urge you to give them a call because there's nothing like talking to somebody. We've been having those discussions, everybody. Talk to them and tell them not only your story about this, but you might be facing foreclosure. You might be making less money on your job. You might be one of the UAW workers who's making $500 a week until the strike is ended. There's so much that is going on, and your money could get funny. So they can help you with that. But if you want to get a home, you might be able to get into this program. But Team Hochberg can help you to find out if you're eligible. If you are a Chicago resident and your total household income does not exceed $105,700. Might sound like a lot, but if several people are contributing, that is not a lot of money. But if your total household income does not exceed $105,700, you might be eligible for this if you've also not owned a home in the past 3 years. So why don't you call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, because guess what? You might be able to get a home. And if you do that, you can begin to establish multi-generational wealth. People who own homes are more likely to have children who own homes, and on and on and on it goes. And Team Hochberg are the people to help you. They're your trusted local lenders. So call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. And find out if you're eligible for this program, but also ask them about their other financial products. If you're facing foreclosure, if you're about to miss a paycheck, if your paycheck has been lessened for any reason, and you might not be able to make those bills, I think they can help you out at Team Hochberg. Call them at 855-56-DAVID or go to 56david.com. David Hochberg, was that a pretty fair assessment of what you do at Team Hochberg?
Yeah, pretty spot on. Thanks for the invite on and the introduction.
Well, always. You're a sponsor of the show, and I'm so grateful for your support. And people really, really need it. They really, really need it. You said something that really struck people, and Dr. Knighton decided to stay on because people are really struggling, and we are all seeing it every day, right? I have a friend who went into bankruptcy. She had a divorce. She went into bankruptcy. That is not uncommon. It happens a lot. And we went out to lunch, and this was like, oh my goodness, like 30 years ago. And she pulled out a credit card. And I was like, wow, how was she able to get a credit card? Because I was going to pay for lunch. And she was like, girl, no. And she pulled out a credit card, paid for the lunch. And I was like, no, let me pay. She said, no. Well, it turns out it wasn't a credit card, it was a debit card. And that really threw me off. But you said, wait a minute, you really, if you want to rebuild your credit, if you want to build your credit, a debit card is not what you should be using. What should you use a debit card for, and why does not a debit card help you build your credit?
Yes, there is and thanks again for the opportunity. The debit card is a great tool when you're in need of cash out of an ATM machine. That's really the only time you should use your debit card if you're trying to establish credit, enhance your credit, or strengthen your credit. That's it. I mean, the only reason to use a debit card is to take cash out of a cash station. I had a credit empowerment workshop last night, and WCPT listener, won't give her a real name, we'll say Shelley, late 50s, early 60s, fellow NIU grad, as I am, Northern Illinois University, Harvard, the Midwest. She's a retired nurse. She bypassed choir practice to come to the workshop, so hopefully God will forgive her. And she's like, I've been using my debit card for everything. And she's like, I'm having trouble establishing my credit. I also want to help my 30-year-old son, who's also having equally as challenging a time establish credit. So during the presentation, I gave different techniques that everybody could use that's 100% free, right? I mean, all the stuff that I'm presenting on the show that I present in my workshops, I don't charge for. It's all 100% on complimentary. It's free, and it's transferable. And that's the important thing. I have a gentleman there whose son, I believe, lives in Maine or somewhere up in the Northeast. And he asked me if I'm licensed in Maine. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm licensed in Maine. I'm licensed in 45 states. I could check. I go, but I don't have to be licensed in the state. The information I'm providing is applicable in all 50 states in our great country. So the information is this. If you want to establish credit after a bankruptcy, or you want to establish credit, period, using your debit card is the worst thing that you could do, because you're getting absolutely zero credit for the transactions that you're doing on the debit card. All you have to do is switch your spending pattern over to a Team Hartford Fresh Start Secured Visa card, which is used universally and accepted universally, I should say, everywhere. I've got a couple right now, your listeners down in Texas, okay? He's a retired veteran, Chicago boy, moved down to Texas. His wife's down there. They have a couple of kids. They've been trying to reestablish their credit for years. They did what every parent does, or what most parents do, is try to help their kids out, get a leg up in life. Challenge is the kids defaulted, both of their sons defaulted, and made bad decisions on the credit that they co-signed for. Mom and dad co-signed for an apartment. They stopped paying rent. Guess what? Landlord filed a collection against mom and dad, destroyed their credit because the son didn't pay the rent. They co-signed for a car loan for their kid. Guess what? They stopped paying the car loan. Car got repossessed. Mom and dad's credit got rocked and destroyed because their sons, didn't pay for the car. So they're trying to do the right thing and help their kids, get ahead in life. But then the kids throw a couple of torpedoes at mom and dad's side. So now I'm helping them down in Texas, absolutely free. I'm not charging them. So these are just a couple examples, Santita, of the information that I provide, helping listeners get back on the feet. Because if you want to buy a home, I get calls all the time. I want to buy a home. Great. What do you do? I've got a job. My wife and I work. My wife and my partner work. Great. What's your credit score? 515. Well, okay, we got a little work to do because you got the credit, you got the down payment, but nobody's going to give you a loan with a 515 credit score. Because the credit score that you have shows creditors your past experience, your past history of paying debt on time and being responsible. If you've got credit scores in the 500s or the low 600s, you're going to have a tough time getting credit going forward. It's just a fact.
So how do you get out of that? I mean, because I don't want to get too
Well,
deep into the example of the couple in Texas, but like, okay, you have 515 credit, you've got money, but you cannot, you can't get the car, you can't get the house, you can't even get the apartment. So, how do you get on the road to going to 615, to going to 700, or
you
maybe
gotta
even
make.
higher?
It's a great question. That's a great question. I've been weight challenged all my life, right? I was a kid at Sears in the Husky department buying big jeans, okay? So you've got to make a commitment to want good credit, right? It's just like I made a commitment to lose weight and I lost weight, right? What did I do? I put the bucket of chicken down, I put the Coke down, and I switched out with a bucket of vegetables and water, right? I stopped drinking and eating garbage, and I put the remote control down, got my big butt off the couch, and started working out. So if you want, the same thing goes to your credit scores. If you want good credit, you got to be dedicated, as in anything in life, to be successful. You got to want to be successful with credit and have good credit. So that's number one. If you're not committed, don't even waste your time starting. Because all you're going to do is disappoint yourself and waste my time. Because I will bust my rear end and follow up with you to help you, but you've got to be committed. That's number one. Number two, you've got to have at least some money to reestablish your credit with a secured credit card. I teamed up with a local credit union, Kane County Teachers Credit Union. Okay, Kane County Teachers Credit Union allowed me to private label a credit card. That's why we have the Mockbridge Secured Visa credit card. Their requirement, not mine, in order to get a credit card, there are three requirements. Number one, you have to be 18 years old. Okay, that's just a law to get credit. You have to be at least 18 years old. Number two, you can have not defaulted on a Kane County Teachers Credit Union higher loan. Okay, well, most people have never heard of Kane County Teachers Credit Union, but I think we got a good chance of not ever having defaulted on a prior Kane County Teachers Credit Union loan. And if you did, you got to make it good and make it right. Number three, you have to have $500 to give them to open up a credit card. You give them $500, and there's no annual fee. That's another great part. You deposit $500 into their credit union, which is nationally insured and nationally recognized. They will give you a $500, and you meet those other three requirements. Where you're 18, you don't owe them it. You don't owe them any money, and you're in good standing, then guess what? They will give you a credit card. It's that simple. And then what you do is you switch your spending patterns from your debit card to your secured credit card. You have $500 worth of availability on your secured credit card. Okay, they won't let you spend more than $500. They spend $500. They will give you a credit card, and then once you spend that $500 on goods and services, you pay it back. And every time you pay it back, they're reporting to the credit agencies. You're getting credit built up by spending money with your credit card instead of your debit card.
So you're getting
after 6 months.
So it's like colloquially, you're getting credit. Once you do this, you're getting some credit. People are vouching for. But let me ask you this: can you put in more than $500? Say you have $700, $750, or do they limit it to $500?
No, it's a minimum of $500. I'll give you a perfect example. A listener, WCPT, called me up. This 23-year-old, his daughter has a boyfriend. They're living with him and his family in order to save money for a down payment. Okay. He's collecting $2,000 from them for rent because that's what they would pay in his area for rent. He's saving that money for them and is going to give that rent back to them in the down payment. He wants his daughter and future son-in-law to learn how to start saving money and putting aside rent, okay? So he went in, the boyfriend, to get a mattress, a brand new mattress for them to sleep on. Okay, great. They go into one of these mattress stores that they're on every corner, try to apply for credit at a mattress store to get a mattress, or declined, okay, because he had no credit as a 23-year-old young man. So this listener took $4,000. He had like $10,000 saved because they'd already been living with him for 5 months. So he took $4,000 and opened up two $2,000 credit cards for this young man. Okay, because the higher you start with, the better. Because as you start charging, then it has to do a credit utilization. And if you have a $2,000 start rate because you have $2,000 in there, and you only use $250 a week or $500 a week, you're under 25% of the limit. You always want to keep your credit cards under 25% of what the limit is. That's why I recommend that everybody pays off their credit card every Friday. Okay, why Friday? Because it's Friday. Who forgets a Friday? Nobody forgets a Friday, okay? If you can afford to pay your credit cards off on Friday, do it. If you can't afford to pay them off, at least put something towards it, because you're always knocking off the payment. You're always knocking out the payment. You're always knocking down the balance. Okay, so if you've got an unbelievable amount of credit card debt and you get paid every Friday, and if you can, just pay some of the credit card debt down. I'm not naive enough to realize that a lot of our listeners are carrying $10, $15, $20, $30, $40,000 worth of credit card debt. But instead of waiting for the end of the month for the credit card bill to show up, send in some money during the week and knock down that balance. You will be helping your credit scores out tremendously and improving your credit profile by just sending money in every single week to pay it down. And if you are fortunate enough to have enough resources to pay your credit cards off every week on a weekly basis, instead of at the end of the month when the bill comes, do it. Because your credit scores, that's an instant shot of estrogen. If you're a woman, an instant shot of testosterone. If you're a man, you're getting stronger by doing that. It enhances your credit. So, again, 3 things. You have to be at least 18. You have to have not defaulted on a past loan with King County Teachers Credit Union, seeing that I never heard of King County Teachers Credit Union until about 6 months ago. I think there's a high probability that a lot of your listeners have not defaulted on loans with them. And you have to have a minimum of $500 in order to open up an account. Once you open up an account, you have instant pulse on the credit agencies. What will happen is you will know you're back when your mailbox starts blowing up with credit card offers. And when that happens, you've got to have the strength and the discipline not to open up credit cards. You need to take those credit card offers, shred them, tear them up, and put them in the garbage, because that's the sign that your credit's getting better. When you start getting credit card offers, that is a sign that you're back on the grid. You're not one of the 47 million Americans any longer that doesn't have any credit. Okay? You now have credit, and we're getting you to a point to where you are going to be in a position, if you want to, own a home, because you need credit to own a home. Not everybody should own a home, Santita, right? I said that's why we have apartment buildings. You know, some listeners don't want the hassle of having to cut the lawn and having to shovel and having to, fix a roof every 20, 30 years when a roof goes, and, fixing things that break. They want to call up a landlord, and a superintendent comes in to fix, so they send a crew in to fix. That's fine. But guess what? Homeowners insurance, based upon your credit. Car insurance, the premium that you pay is based upon your credit. When you go to get a job, when the job market starts tightening up, and there's 3 candidates with the same qualifications as you, and all 3 of you are going for the same job, that employer, has the right to pull your credit. Now, if that employer pulls your credit, and you're a 540, and the person next to you is a 530, and the other person going for the same exact job that you're qualified for is a 720, guess what? The person with the 720, the candidate with the 720 is going to get the job. And you with your 500 and the other guy or gal with the 500 is not going to get the job. It's too high of a risk. Why? That's life. Okay, so everything that you do revolves around your credit, from employment to where you live. If you go in to apply for an apartment lease, right, to lease an apartment, the landlord most likely is going to run your credit. So it's everywhere. It's like oxygen, right, Doc? It's everywhere. So like it or not, you have to realize that it is a major foundational block of your life, and you need to control it and get ahead of it.
Well,
I'm here to help you.
Well, yeah, and how can we do that? At 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. They should call you.
Yes.
And they should say, I want to get this credit card. It's a secured credit card, right?
Correct. I will introduce you to my team. There's a gentleman by the name of John Soto, John Soto over at King County Teachers Credit Union, and we have a lady by the name of Jessica Rebello. There's another program called a secured loan that's a forced savings account that shows up on your credit report as an installment loan, and that will further help your listeners enhance their credit. So again, I will use Theo Coleman, my friend at the Salvation Army, and the only reason I am mentioning his name and where he worked is because Theo said I could use him as an example. He's like, please use me to help others. Okay, we took Theo Coleman, who I met at WGN Radio for a Salvation Army fundraiser last Christmas. Okay, he had a 557 credit score. Him and his wife want to buy a home in Northwest Indiana. Okay, he makes good living. She makes a good living. She's got great credit. He's very credit challenged. We need both him and his wife's income in order to buy a home in Northwest Indiana. It's not happening with Theo's 557 credit score. Theo did exactly what I'm preaching right now on your radio show to your listeners. And in 6 months, we took Theo from 557 to a 614. Okay, we are a month away from doing another round of a credit builder loan, and the payment goes in at the beginning of October. I'm super excited for the beginning of October because I want to see how far we went from 614 up. So
well, hold on.
Made a commitment for me.
Well, no, well, just very quickly, I only have about 3-4 minutes left here. What is a credit builder loan? I mean, should you ask about that as well?
Builder loan, yes, but and I will dive deeper. I wanted to focus on the secured credit card because a credit builder loan is this. It is a savings account. Okay, I work with BMO Harris and also KCTCU, King County Teachers Credit Union. They will give you a loan. It will show up as a trade line. It'll show up on your credit report with TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian.
Okay.
They will put you on a payment plan. You will deposit $50 or $100 into their account. There's no loan. It's just the name of a loan.
Okay.
They call it a loan so they can report it to the credit agency. You're not getting any money. Okay? After you pay off this quote-unquote loan, which is a savings account, and we'll use $1,000. You put $1,000 in there over a prolonged period of time, however long it takes you to get the $1,000 in there, right? That will be reported on the credit bureaus as a loan that you paid off. When you pay off the loan, they will refund that money back to you. Okay? And then what you do is you then put it back and you open up another one. We opened up a secured loan, a believer loan, they call it, credit builder loan, whatever you want to call it. Each bank's got a different term. With Theo in the spring, and in 3 months we got his credit scores from 557 to 614. And I am super excited to see where we took it from 614 to hopefully the mid to upper sixes in the past 4 months by just doing another type of these loans. So all your listeners have to do, now explain it to them in more detail, is just give me a call. I'm not charging them anything for it. This is free information. You just go to my website, 56david.com, shoot me an email, put Santita on there. I'll know what it's all about. Say, please call me to talk about the programs that you mentioned on Santita Show. This is in all 50 states, from Bangor, Maine, to Key West, Florida, San Diego, California, out to Hawaii, up to Alaska, and all points in between. This can be used if you want to build your credit, enhance your credit, establish your credit after a bankruptcy, after a divorce, after a horrific business went south, whatever, a foreclosure or short sale. I'll help you, but you got to pick up the phone and call.
Well, I have a question for you.
855-56-DAVID.
855-56-DAVID. Just very quickly, I've had some listeners who've lost an income in the house, a husband or a wife or a partner. They've lost their jobs, or they're being paid less. Is it wise to move to your credit card so that they can keep their payments up?
Well, here, if you've lost an income, that's a completely different challenge, right? What you have to do is, get through that storm, right? Taking $500 out to open up a secured credit card while you're having financial challenges, try to feed your family and take care of yourself and your loved ones. You got to put the water on the fire that's burning hottest right now, and that fire would be to contact your creditors, try to work something out, contact your mortgage company, trying to work something out. I mean, I was watching videos the other day of striking actors and screenwriters out in California. They haven't made a mortgage payment in 60 days. They're getting part-time jobs. They might lose their house. So it's horrible. So focus on that first.
So can they call you, and can Team Hochberg walk them through that process?
Yeah, absolutely. With no charge. We're not going to charge.
Well, you know what?
Let me go into hardship.
While you do not charge, they can become your clients, because look, we all need help. There are other people. There are people who have expertise in these areas. Everybody's saying that you're giving excellent information. Robert Williams says he pays his bills off at the end of the month on the credit cards. He said anything else is a trap. And Donnie, let me tell you who's speaking. It's David Hochberg of Team Hochberg. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com and look at the information. But I would advise you to give them a call. They're really wonderful people, and they can help you get through this. They can answer all the questions for you. I think this credit card is an excellent idea, and it can be so helpful. David Hochberg, can't wait to have you back in the next couple of weeks. People want to know about this credit. I'm telling you. Everybody, let's talk about this 32-hour work week that the UAW is pushing for with Dr. Julianne Malveaux, brilliant labor economist, president emeritus of the Bennett College for Women. And tomorrow morning, bright and early, Dr. Cornel West will be with us on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. Thank you so much, David Hochberg.
Thank you, Santita. You have a great day, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. People really enjoyed that. I told you that's a rub for a lot of folks.
Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll do live reads giving examples of the listeners who we've helped.
Absolutely.
I think it adds more feeling to it, that people could relate to it. It's relatable. That's what I'm trying to dive in that coffee.
Yeah. I mean, but you have to get in this and you see what works and what works best, right? And that's why I said, when you talked about credit, I said that's a rub for people. It's a real rub. And so I would like for people to know that they can come to you for all kinds of financial advice and financial products. And that's one of the things. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Dr. Knighton?
Good morning.
Hey, you still there? I am. I'm packing and I'm talking. Are you there, Dr. Malveaux?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, well, I just let one person go. Dr. Shanina Knighton is still with me. Dr. Knighton, that's Dr. Julianne Malveaux.
Hi, how are you, Dr. Malveaux? Hi, I'm wonderful. How are you? I'm doing pretty good. Well, was listening in on some it's about credit and housing this morning. Okay. So you have the show on right before Santita?
She's on. Well, she's part of the team here. What I've done through Dr. Deborah Holden, she introduced me to Dr. Knighton, and she's someone, I don't know, I'd never heard of an infection preventionist. And I was introduced to that by Dr. Knighton. And in fact, Dr. Verholden, who's one of the top epidemiologists in the world, she's now the Dean of Global Public Health at NYU. She said, I've got someone for you. And she's been with us the length of the pandemic, giving us the most practical, the most wonderful advice. She's been a lecturer at Case Western Reserve University. She's a registered nurse, PhD, and she is I have to say it, she's the first person in her family to get a high school diploma, let alone a college degree or a PhD. And she's not 40 years of age, and she's absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. I mean,
thank you, Santita.
Oh no, it's true. And Dr. Malveaux, brilliant. And so she's someone, Dr. Malveaux, that we not only need to lift up, but we need to know who she is and what she does, right? Because one of the things that they did not touch during the pandemic was infection prevention. It's like, how do I not get this thing? And that's what she was doing the whole of the pandemic, showing us literally how to wash our hands and things like that.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Or
I look forward to the opportunity to meet you, Doc, next time I'm in Chicago, which I don't know when that's going to be.
She's in Cleveland.
She's
in Cleveland.
I'm in Cleveland. She what?
She's in Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland.
She's in Cleveland.
Marilyn Mobley. I do know Marilyn Mobley. She's one of ours. She's one of me and Santita's sorors.
Hey.
She's my soror as well. Thank you.
Deltas are in the house.
I
Hello.
went to the Delta party last night. I went to the Delta party last night here at Carpet.
Ooh.
It was okay. It's fun. Big fun. That's so awesome. So yeah, she was our associate dean for diversity, equity, and inclusion before she had retired. So she was a heck of a force when she was at Case. Yeah. So she her mom had been ill, and so she ended up moving back to Cleveland. And I got a call her. I was thinking about her. Santita, send me this link. Text it to me.
Oh, I'm gonna connect you all by text if you don't mind. Okay.
That's awesome. It's interesting because I had did this news. So I did an interview for this major outlet, like magazine outlet. And Dr. Mobley, because she's all about DEI, she brought it to my attention. She was like, wonderful article for Laura. I'm happy to see that you're doing well. She said, but it's disturbing to me how they call you by the last name Knighton, but they give everyone else their credentials.
Hello.
Mm-hmm. And so literally, how many times I've had to write about that? I mean, but white folks, black folks do it too. I agree. With a no longer friend who did this choir, me and three men, and all 10 were doctor. And I was just doing my home.
Yeah.
Yep. I said, well, everybody was first name, last name, I wouldn't mind. But, you give them Negroes their props, you're not going to be mine. I think you're being oversensitive. I think so it is. Don't call me no more. I don't know you. That was it. But that's the truth. So that was the truth. And so I reached out to them and I said, well, let's do all credentials or let's do none. I said, but I earned mine. And I said, no other outlet has had this issue. So they did go back and edit the article and include it. But I was thankful to her because me rushing and reading the article and me focusing so much to make sure that they capture what I wanted to say and nothing else. I had overlooked something that was so important. Well, it's easy to do. Plus, as women, we have a tendency not to want to make a mistake. I wrote, this was years ago. I don't know. Sorry. I wrote this diatribe on Facebook talking about it and saying, this was a black woman who thought it was okay. And I think probably 1 out of 3 answers I got was like, I was being arrogant, Why do you have to be called doctor? Because the same GD even those men did.
We all need our handles. Stand by, everybody. Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today. It is Thursday, September 21st, 2023, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. What a wonderful time to be with you today as we talk about this 32-hour work week. Is it as simple as that? That is one of the demands of the UAW, and they are holding fast on that for which they are fighting. And I'm so excited about that. Of course, the brilliant labor economist, the president emeritus of the Bennett College for Women, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, who's also co-chair of Rainbow Push for Excellence, the Push Excel program that is really international in scope in terms of all that we have been educating, that we have been paying for. We've been sending them to college. Can't wait to hear from her as she talks to us about this 32-hour work week. And of course, at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Max Wolf will talk to us about this global and U.S. economy that's slowing down. And what role will robots and all of that have in all of this? But tomorrow morning, Dr. Cornel West will be joining us talking about his presidential run. Why is he running? Some people are calling him spoiler. Some people are saying, you know what, he's actually a savior and he's speaking to the issues that I want him to speak to. Well, you're going to hear straight from him, unfiltered, on the Santita Jackson Show, first thing in the morning at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Let's get to some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show so that we can talk to Dr. Malveaux, because this UAW strike, they say, can have a negative impact upon the economy. But you know what? Not having your money has a negative impact on the economy. How about that? Yeah. There's that. There is that. President Zelensky accused the United Nations of inaction on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, that is coming amidst the numbers in the United States in which more and more Americans don't want to pay for this. We're paid more than $100 billion, and Americans need money. But that having been said, he sharply criticized the body's ability to defend the sovereignty of nations. That is fresh on the heels of President Biden's address to the same General Assembly of the United Nations, in which he was asking for their support of the for this effort in Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen, everybody? The UN Security Council wants them to remove Russia's veto power. Will that happen? Highly unlikely, everybody. The Biden administration will extend legal status to 470,000 Venezuelans. It will offer temporary protected status to Venezuelan migrants who entered the U.S. by July 31st. The Senate confirmed the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff despite a blockade. Air Force General Charles Brown Jr., President Biden's nominee, was confirmed to the Pentagon's most prestigious post yesterday, despite a political standoff led by Senator Tommy Tuberville of Indiana, the Republican who has blocked military promotions for months over a Defense Department abortion policy. The federal government will again provide free coronavirus tests, everybody. Yes, go to covidtest.gov, covidtest.gov, so that you can get your 4 tests per household. But Dr. Knighton said, okay, that's nice, but what about the follow-up? What about the supplemental income when people need to stay home? What about? We need to talk about that too. And, those are more of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Chicago, a high of 72 degrees today. Showers, Minneapolis, St. Paul, 84 degrees, feeling absolutely like summer, mostly sunny. In the NFL, the Giants will be playing the 49ers tonight. In Major League Baseball, the Twins 5, Cincinnati 3, the Nationals 13, the White Sox 3, and the Cubs 7, the Pirates 13. WNBA, the Sun, well, they were triumphant over the Lynx, 90-75. And those are just some of the headlines last night. Well, we are now well into this UAW strike. This is nearly 150,000 workers who have said, look, we have given the auto company, we gave you the cost of living increases. We said, we'll stop with those. That was a guarantee in their contract. And we will not ask for you to contribute to our pension fund. Why? Because in 2008 and 2009, the big three, GM, Stellantis, which was Chrysler, and Ford, were broke. And they said, we'll do our portion, because if you go out of business, so do we. Okay, so President Obama intervened and spoke with the workers, and they said, okay, we're all in, President Obama. Administration, we're in, because we've got to save the company, much like Lee Iacocca saved Chrysler back in the 70s. That's nice. So guess what? The companies came roaring back. I mean, they made $250 billion within 10 years. They made $21 billion alone in the first half of this year. And car prices surged by 30%. CEO compensation went up 40%. Worker compensation moved 6%. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, brilliant labor economist, And now when you look at the corporate media, they say, well, they want to get paid 40 hours worth of wages for 32 hours worth of work. And you say, it's not quite that simple. Charmaine Henry is sending you much love already. She said, I just love Julian Malveaux. You go on.
Well, I sure appreciate that. I do. And we did. And the 40-hour work week is not written in stone. I mean, it evolved. At one point in time, people were working 6 hours a week. The Fair Labor Standards Act, which was passed in 1938, was a 44-hour week, and then it went down to 40 hours in 1940. The Fair Labor Standards Act basically standardized, and this was after nearly, 80 years of people working whenever, however, whatever. Henry Ford was actually the one who popularized a 40-hour work week because he found out that people were more productive when they worked less. And even today, the OECD, also the Economic Something Development, anyway, that organization has done work to find that the countries with the least number of hours per week are the most productive. So there are not that many countries that have less than 40 hours, but Luxembourg is considered the most productive country. It's an organization for economic cooperation and development.
Well, wait a minute. Well, Dr. Malveaux, then let me ask this question. Then what is the point of work? Is it to work yourself to the bone, or is it to be productive?
Well, that would be a useful question to ask employers. Now, I can see why the auto companies are having some challenges with a 32-hour week.
Okay.
Basically, it can be a scheduling blessing or a scheduling nightmare. Now, they have all this AI for everything else, so put the AI on the schedule. In other words, if you have the equipment to operate 8 hours, 5 days, or 8 hours, 6 days, then you just have to put together a schedule that reflects that. That's all. It's not that deep. But they're making it deep because they're seeing it as a 20% pay increase. And you get the same pay for 32 hours that you got for 40 hours. That's implicitly a pay increase. But if you're more productive, and what some of the research suggests is that you will be more productive, the company isn't going to lose anything. I don't think that that's going to happen this go round in terms of bargaining, but I think it's a first step towards standardizing the alternative to the 40-hour week. And there are international organizations that are looking at this. They're looking at 4 10-hour days, but they're also looking at a 32-hour week. And as I said, they're international organizations that are looking at that. And how come are people really looking at a reduced work week? Because people have lives. Because, as you say, work is important. Albert Camus said, without work, all life is rotten. People need purpose. But people don't need purpose 24/7. And when you have people, because even a 4-hour, if you work in certain jobs, with the internet, your 4-hour, even your 5-day, 8-hour day turns into a whole lot more. People email you any kind of time of the day and night about what they want and what they need, and this is urgent and that's urgent. And we haven't even begun to think through how to create boundaries for workers around their time versus company time. And especially if you are an administrator, where people feel like everything is an emergency. And I can tell you, as a former administrator, people will call you about BS that is not an emergency, but they have your phone number. So the whole notion of rethinking the relationship between money and work and life, rethinking that's what's happening. COVID accelerated some of that because people found they could be more productive working from home, that they didn't have to spend an hour commuting to get somewhere and then hang out, eat coffee, play games, and just be present. If they found out they were more productive when they were at home. And also that they spend less money because they didn't commute. They didn't have to stop every day. They could do their job with a nice shopping at PJ.
But Dr. Malveaux, one of my friends is commuting, and I've got several. We're at the age now where we have older parents and older siblings, older relatives who, even when you have caregivers, I promise you, because my father has a caregiver, but the care falls on you. When my grandmothers both went into hospice, they help you.
You don't have to tell me about that. When my mother first had her, she had 2 strokes, and they sent her to a rehab place, which was very good during the day.
Mm-hmm.
But whoever was there in the evening, we just didn't trust them, and there was good reason. So we decided after a couple of weeks, Mommy would not be at that place by herself ever.
You can't do it.
There will always be one of us. There's 5 of us. There will always be one of us with her, and especially at night. Because at night we have senior nurses. The people, if they're working from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., you're not a happy camper. And some of them behave like they were not happy campers.
Well,
we have to be there.
You have to be there, Dr. Malveaux. And that's where when I look at these people, the point is being made that you don't work 8 straight hours. You might, put in a good 5-6 hours of the 8 hours that you're there or whatever. I mean, people divvy things up. You talk at the water cooler, all of that. But the thing is, real life has to be incorporated into how people work, Dr. Malveaux. And I don't think that's soft. That's just the reality. You're gonna have to call in a sick day if your child is ill, if your partner, your husband, your wife, if they're ill. I mean, what gives?
Well, exactly. And what we're finding, again, there's a piece in Inc. magazine, a really good piece. The headline is an experiment reveals that a 32-hour work week just might be the secret to employee happiness. Because you're not only dealing with your family, you're dealing with your own self, your health. How many times you have to take a sick day because you have to go to the doctor? All of that. I mean, I think it's something worth considering. As I say, the realist says this is not going to happen this time around. But the UAW has done the nation of service in raising up this 32-hour work week. It happened in places like New Zealand, and it's happened in other places. It hasn't really happened much in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But it does happen, but it has happened, and it does provide all kinds of things. I'm just reading from this Inc. article. There's a 24% increase in home work balance. People come back to work more energized. People are more creative. Attendance is better. People are more punctual, and they don't leave early. So you're going to get a real 32 hours as opposed to 32 hours in drift. And what the drift is? I mean, I sat up my desk many a time playing solitaire.
But you know what, Dr. Malveaux?
I don't think half of it.
But when I watch corporate media, and you please help us with this, they're really trying to paint workers who work hard every single day, who have given up their cost of living increases while inflation has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
These people have sacrificed a lot, and they're trying to shape the narrative. These people want to get more money for less work. And I think from what I'm hearing, your examination of the data says, no, they're actually doing the work. And then in other countries, they have acknowledged this. And so people are more productive, which leads me to my original question. What's the point? Am I supposed to just be in the factory or be in the workplace, work myself? I'm supposed to be there. Not 40 hours, 60, 80 hours. And I'm less productive? I mean, what do they want, productivity, or they just want my body there? I mean, what is it?
Well, some of them just want your body there. I recall years ago doing radio for a station in New York and doing it remotely. And then having the woman tell me to see my workers in their office. So basically, this was in the early 2000s. So I could get on a train every week or train up place and go do a 3-hour show and then come back to D.C. And she likes to see her workers in the office. And eventually I'm like, hey, you got this. But there's a mentality of, I like to see my workers busy. I like to see my workers. And that mentality is an enslavement type mentality. I like to see my workers. And they're not your workers, they're the company workers. And there are ways to work some of them out. But, the hierarchies that exist in employment are such that bosses are unreasonably elevated. And a lot of this, I want 5 days, 8 hours, is ego. Feeding ego. It's not feeding productivity. And if people know that there's a certain job that has to be done, and that they'll do their work, we have evidence they'll do their work.
I mean, people are working. They're working hard every day. They work. I'm just, but when I look at the UAW workers, I also think about the frontline workers at the hospitals, the sanitation workers. I'm thinking about them. I'm like, wait a minute, these people do work you don't want to do. And even if it's work that they want to do, they're expert at it. But we're working people to the bone. They can't really weigh in with their families, and that is important, everybody. Well, at the end of your life, I'm working with a very dear friend on some end of life decisions. And you know what, Dr. Malvo? She does not have any regrets about all the time that she put into her work. You know what she does? She says, I wish I'd spent more time with you and my girls. I wish I spent more time, had a little bit more time with my kids. Because that's life too. And I mean, and when you get to work after it's just like getting a good night's rest. You feel refreshed, Dr. Malvo. I mean, why is that a soft demand? Why is that something that we can just go past? Why is that?
You feel refreshed, you feel creative, you're ready to take on the world. I mean, that's a really great thing. And everybody doesn't have that opportunity because of the heavy work schedules that we have. Because, face it, 40 turns into 48. Ask any worker. I mean, some of the big box stores, they have wage caps. When you work 8 hours a day, but then after you punch out, you go back and clean up your station. Mm-hmm. And think about a big box store where you have to fold T-shirts or jeans or, rearrange equipment. You're doing that after you clock out? So going to a 32-hour week, it's a progressive step, and it's an important step. And it's a step that, again, as I said, the UAW has got us a service in raising your issue. I don't think it's going to be resolved this time around. I really don't. But I do think that it's a step in the right direction. The conversation is a step in the right direction. And I think that we also need to look at, as you say, is the purpose there just to work me to death, or is there a purpose that has something to do with productivity? And I don't think we've done enough work in the long run about productivity. So we really are not clear about who's productive and under what circumstances. Again, I think that COVID did so many things, both positive and negative. But one of the positives is that it made us rethink work and how we do it, and how we need to do it, and what we can do without being physically in the office. Cal State LA operated for nearly a year with nobody coming to work. Everybody worked remotely. I mean, the campus was open. They had some very limited interactions, but everything from hiring, classes, all of that happened remotely. Now, what can't happen remotely, of course, is manufacturing. What can't happen is hospitals remotely. The nurses can't work remotely, but with a shorter work day, or shorter work week rather, they can come back fresh and enthusiastic and with ideas, as opposed to people, I hate this. Why do we get this? People only have 2 days off on the weekend. That's what they need to do. Is it open? Look at banking and other things. A lot of that's not open. So people are having a hard time. And this negotiation reflects that. People are having a hard time.
Dr. Malvo, I've got 1 minute left. What do you want us to know? What should we be looking out for? Because as you said, the UAW, they're really doing all workers, which is 99% of us, a favor.
I think we need to keep following UAW. I think we need to be as helpful as we can. It doesn't mean honking your horn when you drive by a picket line. You need to do a little bit more than that. Find out what's needed and pitch in. And we can all do that. We can all do that.
And how can we listen to your radio show? You have a radio show that everyone needs to tune into. When is it, and how can we do that?
It is WPFWFM.org, Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time.
And are they archived? We can listen to old shows, yes? Back shows?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Absolutely.
And how can we get your columns?
I think
I'm putting it all out there, Dr. Malveaux. You've got a radio show. You got. Okay.
And then my JulianMalveaux.com. Check me out.
JulianMalveaux.com, everybody. And the radio station again, and what time?
WPFWFM.org, streaming 9 a.m. Eastern Monday morning.
All right, now that's the only time you're not going to catch her on the Santita Jackson show when I can't get her when she's doing her own show. But everybody, spread the word because we need her voice. This is the President Emeritus of Bennett College for Women, a brilliant labor economist and co-chair of Push for Excellence. And I'm going to see you at the Black Caucus just in a few more hours. Sending you so much love, Dr. Malveaux.
Love you more. Call me when you land.
All right. Or when I pull into the station. Love you so much. Dr. Maxwell is talking to us about this slowing global economy, the slowing U.S. economy. How is it impacting you? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Hey, everybody.
Okay, I'm hanging up. Take care.
Sending you much love, girl. You're not packing as I'm talking.
Huh?
Oh, hold on. I'm packing and leaving at the same time.
Oh. Okay, so tell me when you get in.
Oh, yeah, I'll be in mid-afternoon. You know, Jonathan's having a party tonight. Did you know about that?
John who?
My brother.
Oh, I know. John who?
Huh?
He didn't invite me.
He didn't invite me either, but I'm going. No, that's not that kind of party. It's just, I think it's just a general CBC thing. Anybody got time to invite you?
Text me the info.
Yeah, I will. As if you will be turned away if you show up. Don't you even go there.
I got 3 or 4 things. There's a Black Lives Matter party at Georgia Brown's at 8.
Look.
That Melina is doing that I'm gonna pop in on, and I think I got a bunch of stuff. But anyway,
of course
I was
you do.
Pop in on his too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do everything. These folks ain't gonna drive me.
Girl, please. I told somebody the other day. I said that the beauty of being 70 is I couldn't have done that.
But are you 70 really? Are you 70?
Yes, I'm 70. I'm 70. I was born in 1953. I was the 70th on Friday.
We gotta do something.
I don't look it and I don't act it, and that's all right.
Well, you know what? We're redefining aging, Dr. Malveaux. And that's a good thing. I mean, I think it's a good thing. You got a lot of things you got to do. Now you've got the wisdom to do it. How about that?
Now, there you have it. There you have it. I do look back and shake my head at myself. And say, did you really do that?
Oh, Lord.
You know, and the answer will be, girl, please, let me tell you. I ran into a brother last night. He said, you remember you pushed me into a pool? I said, I don't recall that. And then he reminded me. He dared me to do it, and I did it.
Of
This
course.
has to be about.
Wait a minute. Of course you did it.
But he dared me. Why you gonna dare a fool to do something?
No, you didn't have to
And
do it. But you didn't have to.
in my mind, I had no choice. But the funniest part of it is the Negro had the temerity. I was working with the Rockefeller Foundation at the time. He sent him a bill because his cheap-ass suit shrunk up. And he said, your employee pushed me in the pool and my suit shrunk up. And they never. He said they never responded. I said, why would they?
Well, you are just as crazy. But I love my Dr. Malvo. Love you, love you, love
And I've
you.
been crazy my whole life.
Now
I just own it. I'm like, okay, yeah.
No, you
I
are
got a
crazy.
few mental health problems, and I live them.
You don't have any mental health problems. You're just nuts. That's all. But you are ours, as my father said. She belongs to us. Even after he looks at you
How's
like,
Reverend Jackson do?
oh, girl, he's doing fine. Praise the Lord. God is
I'm
good.
trying to tell him talking for hope.
Huh? Well, he wants
I mean,
to.
he's not.
He wants to, and my mother said, no.
No, Reverend, keep your hind parts seated.
But he might
We
show
love you,
up.
but no.
Girl, look, he does what he wants to do. But when my mother, but there are points where my mother just says no. And so,
Well, good for Jackie. So let me let you go. You're getting ready to get back on the air. Love you, my.
All right, sweetie.
Stand by. Let's come back.
Okay, we have Dr. Wolf there.
Yep. Good morning.
Dr. Wolf, I'll be right there. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station at AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Please meet my morning stars. Join this chat family. I love that. On the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel tomorrow, we will be talking with Dr. Cornel West. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about his candidacy. And I know you should be anxious to hear what he has to say as well. So call me right now as we talk to Dr. Max Wolf. You know what time it is as we talk about this global economy that is slowing down, this U.S. economy that is slowing down. What does that mean? What does it mean to have an economy that is down? And what does it mean to have robots coming into the economy? What does it mean? I mean, is it a recession yet? I mean, look, people are struggling, Dr. Wolf. I mean, I know you don't, I mean, there's a very specific definition for it, but my goodness, folks are struggling out here. So when they say that the global economy and that the U.S. economy is slowing down, even though we continue to add jobs month to month, what does that mean? I can't keep up.
Sure. Well, I don't think it's a recession, but we've decided over the years to change the definitions of recession. And so now it's really the collective wisdom of a group of people, most of them academics and sort of leaders in research, were assembled by the U.S. federal government and something called the NBER, the National Business Group, and the Bureau of Economic Research, the National Bureau of Economic Research, and they try to figure out, usually ex post, if we were in a recession. So after it started, and there's a debate, so it doesn't appear we're in a recession now, probably by most standard definitions, although when there is one announced, they always announce that it started sometime earlier, when it's hard to know for sure. The economy is still doing better than would be associated with a recession, overall average macro economy. But it's certainly slowing. But the global economy is slowing, and interest rates have risen, and they're probably going to stay where they were for a long time. And that means an economy that lives on borrowed money, our corporations live on borrowed money, our government lives on borrowed money, our households live on borrowed money, there's going to be less money to borrow. It's going to cost more. So paying to borrow that money, since you're going to, because that's the kind of fuel of the economy these days, is going to be more expensive. So money will be diverted into paying for that borrowed money. Like a fair amount of that money is also borrowed from outside the U.S.
Well, when you say,
here because lots of
no, I just interrupted to interrupt you here because when you say we live on borrowed money, that our country, that our government does, and that we personally live on it, I need you to explain that because we were just talking about repairing our credit at the beginning of the show, And, and I remember Bryant Gumbel, who, of course, the brilliant former host of the Today Show. There was a credit card that it made headlines for that particular morning. That once you went back to a zero balance, they would penalize you. And Brian Gumbel called it out for what it was. He said, "This is so bogus," but he had to apologize the next day, right? Because that's business. But it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, we live on borrowed money, but doesn't everybody around the world?
No, some people lend money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So borrowed money, lent money, but the way that debt, credit, and debt circulates through the economy is very poorly understood, which is interesting because it is the lifeblood of the economy. So our households are full of people who are borrowing money. Borrow money to buy a house in the form of a mortgage. Borrow money to buy a car in the form of a car payment. Borrow money to buy a can of beans or a roll of toilet paper. That's what you're doing if you have a balance on your credit card and you just give it to the guy behind the counter to get a can of beans and a roll of toilet paper. You are using international financial markets and rollover financing, and whatever you think you're paying for that roll of toilet paper and that can of beans, you're probably paying somewhere on the order of 20% more if you have a balance. Right?
Mm.
So we have this weird thing in the country where politicians, mostly people from the Republican Party who voted for all these budgets, get up on TV and talk about how they're morally scandalized by the debt that they voted to take out. They then go on to say, corporations don't do this. Wrong. I don't know where they got that. Just not true. Right? That's pure fabrication. I guess it makes people feel good. And that we should run like our corporations, which are also in debt. Or like our households, which are, also in debt. And the problem is if you don't pay people enough to buy the things middle class people buy, and we kind of haven't in 30, 40 years, but the U.S. and global economy depends on American consumers, right, which are more than 10% of the whole GDP of the world, then people will make arrangements to help you borrow. Our government is massively in debt to the tune of $20+ trillion accumulated debt, and they roll that over. Our households are in debt too, to the tune of somewhere on the order of $17 or $18 trillion, so almost as much as Uncle Sam. And our corporations make them both look minor because they're deploying hundreds of billions of dollars worth of debt for all kinds of reasons at any given moment. Many economies around the world do that. It isn't necessarily always bad, although these debt levels are at or above the levels that cause concern if we study this stuff in economics. The household less so, the government for sure, the private sector. And the reason the government has the debt it has, never explained to anyone, other than the lust for debt that's attributed to the government, is because the government's job is to bail out the private sector and the household when they get in trouble. And you know how they do that? They borrow money. So when you don't want the government to borrow, unless you specify, it's kind of weird because you want to borrow from them, which means they have to borrow. And so this is pretty simple stuff. It sounds complicated the first few times, maybe, but it's very poorly understood. What would cause a guy like me concern, and that could just be more story about me than the world, always a possibility with anyone talking to you, is that the cost of borrowing money is going up, and the conditions that make it hard for people to pay back what they're borrowing, including higher interest rates, are also going up. And we saw little flash versions of this, okay? We've seen in the student loan market, where the Republican Party has successfully blocked attempts to give student loan forgiveness. And we had a debate, I think, misunderstood here, that said, should we do this, should we not, is it fair, is it not? All interesting, probably irrelevant, because people not going to pay this back. So we were either going to forgive them or they were going to default. And if you actually are in that situation, there are a lot of reasons to pursue forgiveness. We can do that on another show, but we're starting to see that in a lot of places. The other thing is that the economy, global economy, was dependent on rapid growth in China and in the emerging markets for a lot of its growth, and that's really stalled out. When it comes to getting a firm grip on the economy, it's always hard. But in some countries where political legitimacy in the government is very sensitive about any negative economic report, sometimes there are questions about how complete a picture the data gives you. China is one of these places. Some things they're very good at reporting, other things we're not so sure. They might be accurate, but there could be some concerns because it's so important to that government to report good numbers to its people and to the world that, when it's something that's so important to you to have come out a certain way, we all know there's a bit of a temptation to round in your favor or a bit more, right? We just had a 4-year debate about whether or not somebody won an election who got 7 million less votes. So certainly we shouldn't be casting the first stone here in the U.S., but there are some questions about the numbers there. And even with all that, the numbers are a cause for some minor concern that there's a real slowdown there. So if your neighborhood's getting a little bit less rich, it's costing a little more to borrow the money that you live on, and the economy is slowing after a sort of unusual time of post-COVID, or if we're back in it once again, what we pretended for a fourth time incorrectly was post-COVID, it just creates a lot of uncertainty in the macro economy. And then what makes that more interesting is that people are pretty angry right now, and the majority of people have been in some kind of basic recession, in terms of their share of the pie, for 40 years.
Yeah.
So we're in a volatile moment. The public's angry, borrowed money costs more, and the size of the pie is growing at least at a slower rate, if not stalling. So more rats, less cheese in the maze would be the executive summary.
Well, I mean, you just said, more or less people have been in a recession for 40 years. That's why I asked the question. I'm like, a lot of people I know are struggling. They're struggling. Anytime people with 6-figure incomes are living paycheck to paycheck, that's tight. It's tight. So when you say, or when we see that the economy is slowing, what does that mean to me? What does that mean?
It means however hard it was, it's probable that it will get a bit harder.
Okay.
And again, I would highlight that there's a lot of people who are living on the edge, right? So when you have a lot of population that's barely somehow, and they don't even always spell out, getting through September to October to November, right? A small decrease in economic activity can have a big impact in their lived experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're relying on tips with terrible base salary and not much ability to look forward, and people start to feel uncomfortable about their situation, they go out to eat less, they tip less well, right? If you're interfaced with the general public, I live in New York City, right? So we're all kind of on top of each other, yeah? Mm-hmm. And so you can sort of see it, how hostile are the interactions. How many things turn into a verbal or physical altercation on the subway that probably didn't have to. You start to see the stuff you see in New York, right? Which when I always tell my graduate students, New York City is a much better economy than I am or you will ever be. Just look at it. It will tell you. When a 25-year-old delivery driver is screaming obscenely to the 65-year-old lady driving her car in front of him, that's a lot of strain in that system, right? Doesn't need much to send that to the next level of difficult, right? When, people are telling everyone that the big problem in their life is a couple of migrants because we're showering them with our generosity of letting them sleep on our beautiful sidewalks and giving them a bologna sandwich every day, and people believe it, then they're in distress.
Well, yeah, I mean, and what the migrants are doing, quite frankly, it's just like COVID. Reverend Tisha Dixon Williams said that COVID is a snitch. It has uncovered our issues. Didn't create them. It uncovered a healthcare system that inadequately serves us and that does not keep us well. That we don't even have 1 million hospital beds in the United States.
Blue state.
Yeah, but
there's another interesting thing I think the migrants tell us, which is the blue states pay all the taxes, and then we get our costs shipped to us by the red states with a lecture about belt tightening. We're paying for our migrants to be shipped to us because we pay all the taxes. Look at net benefit, net recipient, right?
Yeah. I mean, and these are among the poorest states in the union, right? I mean, West Virginia, Alabama, Mississippi. I mean, these are the poorest states. I'm like, really? You're the most heavily subsidized states in the union. And then you want to talk about tightening the belt and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and you're working hard in those states. But there's something that's missing
the
here.
wages are bad.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also, look, if you don't tax people, I'm obviously not for more taxes, and a lot of people should and could have their taxes lowered in the United States, right? But on the flip side, if you don't tax people, especially wealthier people or certain things, they actually can't maintain the government. So you can only maintain the government by diverting revenue from the federal government, which you're always denouncing. Right? So it's a very strange sort of circumstance where, look, I feel like when people have arguments and conversations that are not based in fact, there's no outcome. Because you're just going to have it again, right? Because every time you go get medicine for the wrong disease, your body is just sicker because you poison yourself. Because that's what it's called when you take medicine for something other than the disease or affliction that you're presently struggling with. It's the same problem with arresting the wrong guy. Yeah, that guy's innocent. And then whoever did it is still out there, probably emboldened.
Oh, wow. So, what do we... what are we to do? I mean, because if you look at the corporate media, they're telling people, Americans, you got to work harder, you got to keep working, blah, blah, blah. These UAW workers, they want to make more money for less work, which is not true, and on and on and on and on. My question is, why is it working this way? I mean, because it certainly is not working for working people or poor people at all. And poor people work every day, Dr. Wolf. Let us be clear. Poor people are not just out here living off the fat of the land. They are the frontline workers. They're poor, not just functionally poor,
There's
actually
a lot of
poor.
different kinds of poor people.
Yeah.
Right? So there's also unfortunately, that's a growing rank with a lot of diversity for poor. Right? It's old, it's young, it's white, it's black, it's Hispanic, it's immigrant, it's native born, it's whatever, right? It's highly skilled, it's low skilled, it's people with all kinds of illnesses. Like, remember, we still live in a country where if you have a severe illness and you get a job, it can be it can kill you. Because you can lose access to the subsidized medical care that people only get who have no income. So some people, when they take the advice from someone else who has a job, they might actually be killing themselves. They might actually be killing a loved one because they can't take care of that person anymore, right? So it's hard to judge people, although we seem to like to, without knowing all that much about what they're going through. But I will say one thing we all know. We have made it unbelievably harsh, unbelievably hard, and wildly expensive to be poor. In America, in a market economy, the most expensive thing to be is poor.
Why do you say that?
So it is a job because the whole society is designed to not give you what you need, to force you to go and earn a living. So you are fighting all the institutions and the culture and your neighbors and their judgments and the government and for your benefits, right? Like, that's a lot of fighting. And it often leads to a combative, suspicious personality. Because if you don't have a combative, suspicious personality, you might not make it. And then you fall into our luxuriant safety net of social judgments and rejections.
So,
right? It's not sexy or interesting in America to lift the floor. But if you want people to fall, lifting the floor is more important than lifting the ceiling.
if you don't want people to fall, lifting the floor is more important than lifting the ceiling. When are we going to have that conversation? When are we going to have that practice? Because all we do is blame poor people. You're not, poor people are never enough. I mean, they just work extremely hard. And the thing is, more and more Americans are functionally poor. That is to say, you can't miss a paycheck. You can't. Because your house of cards is, we're living in a house of cards economically now. How do we get out of this mess?
Well, we've done it before, right? So before the 1930s, most people lived very precarious economic lives. I mean, obviously it's hard to compare, and the world was a different place, and America was a different place, and we were different people 100 years ago. So all that is definitely worth noting, and definitely true. On the other hand, look, if you pay people enough money to buy the goods that they produce, then you'll give people a higher standard of income. If you have redistributive taxes, you'll be able to help compensate lower income people a bit more for their in the economy. And remember, people don't necessarily always just choose the path in life that makes the most money. And we rely on people not to. Because no one who just wants to make the most money has a kid, teaches a kid, cares for the sick, cares for the elderly, cleans up a park, runs into a burning building to save someone.
Yeah.
that's in the middle of it when someone's shooting at a bunch of people in public. Those are not the jobs people do because all they want is a buck. But pretty hard to argue that we don't need the nurse as much as we need the $1 million listing realtor. Now, it's subjective, everyone has their own opinion. But I mean, I think we know that we don't pay much for people to care for other people. But we have a society dying to be cared for. That might be a decent place to start, right? As you all know, I'm not the world's most religious or spiritual person, right? But I also think that there are all kinds of things beyond the realm of money and things that people can't have a decent life in. You have to have a sense of belonging to something bigger than you, to be a part of something. I think to be a fulfilled human being, I don't think there's a way around that. And you have to be connected to other people and feel some connection, feel some affection for them, feel some affection from them, feel some care toward them, feel some care from them. I don't think this works otherwise. And one thing, I think we agree on that as a people, person to person, but we somehow don't think that's true at social level.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, because individually, sure, I'll help you, but in the aggregate, not so much. I mean, we beat up homeless people in America. We kill them. We do that. So, what can help us to shift? I know you're an economist. I know you say you're not very spiritual. I disagree with that because you're so decent. No, you're one of the most decent human beings. I don't know anyone more decent. I don't know anyone who's just one-on-one and, generally speaking, kinder. Now, that's just a fact, and leave it alone. That's my point. And I'm sticking with it. That having been said, I mean, how do we make the shift? Because I'm just saying that right now it's unsustainable. Black people have to work 530. It will take us 513 years to reach economic equality in the United States. We don't have that. We don't have that. It takes women. It takes Hispanic women a year. Hispanic and indigenous women, it takes them a year to make what white men make. It takes a black woman 10.5 months. I don't have. I can't do anymore. I'm dancing as fast as I can. What do we need to do?
Well, the other problem is the track we're on to close those gaps is just diminishing prosperity for white men, which is also not ideal, right? The ideal is to bring everyone up to the high water mark.
Absolutely.
Or above it, right? And so I think the problem we have is, I mean, I'm going to say something I've said lots of times, so I'm going to sound like a broken record. Let me apologize for that in advance. But I think we have to start looking around and seeing who's doing it better and paying attention to it. Yeah, it'll be different here, and we'll have to have our own version, and everyone's a little bit different, but not that different, right? So if a lot of people in your country aren't rich, a fact, which will be more true tomorrow than it is today, you need public goods. That's why parks and subways and public education and public medicine are so important. Public pensions, public medicine, public park, public transit. You get the basics, right? You don't get anything fancy. You got to work hard for that, right? But I think the savage motivation theory that we have in the United States, that you got to really torture people in prison, you got to make life unbearable for someone who's low income. I don't think it works. I think it's sort of sadistic and counterproductive. And the funny thing, again, not funny, haha, but weird thing is it's more expensive. Being brutal is really expensive. So we spend a lot of money to brutalize each other. We spend a lot of money locking people in cages. We spend a lot of money denying people basic medical care and education and public transit. It's actually expensive. And we're not rich enough to be that backward anymore. That's what I think is coming to a head. Because we used to have this idea that we were so rich we could solve all the problems with money. I don't think that was true, but somewhat, there's some truth to it. And now we don't have the money. So now you get this cold, hard calculus. I don't want to see anyone get anything else because that could be mine, and I don't have enough. And that's one way of seeing it. The other way of seeing it is how do we all get a little bit better off so it isn't this difficult?
Yeah, because
you know, in the world, people who share what they have do better, even if they have less total, than people who don't.
Absolutely. Look, because I don't want white men to go back. I want everybody to go forward. At the end of the day, I just don't want to be held behind. That's the thing. I don't want any more bombs dropped on the Tulsas. when black people were making all this movement coming out of slavery, and then we are thwarted. The same thing happened to indigenous people. We just keep doing this over and over and over again. We try to use affirmative action and quotas to lock people out instead of finding a way to bring people in. We need more doctors. We need more nurses. We need more LPNs. We need more sanitation workers. We need more frontline workers, and we need to pay them.
Yeah, we need mental health care here too.
Oh, we need all of it.
I would say about all that is, I don't want to set the historical record wrong either. White men need to feel like making it ahead in ways other than keeping other people down. That's way more of a historical problem in the United States than anything else. So I'm not ignoring that. All I'm saying is you don't want convergence because the bottom stagnates, the top drops. You want convergence because there's some kind of general rising tide.
Dr. Max Wolf, everybody. Max F. Wolf, WOLFF, on social media tomorrow morning. Cornell West. Let's talk with him about his presidential run. And I love you, everybody. Have a great day. God bless you, Dr. Wolf. Sending you all my love. Thank you, Henry, for a great show. God bless you. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.